Hey there, friend. I am going to show you how to sidechain a kick drum from Superior Drummer 3 to your bass guitar in case that's a thing you want to do. In the song we're working on today, it is a thing that I want to do, and it sounds like this. Alrighty, so I'll start from the beginning. What I did, because for some strange reason, I can't simply select an output of the plugin, at least with my current knowledge. If there's something I don't know, please let me know. This is my current way that I'm working. So what I do is I open up yonder Superior Drummer, and I make sure that all of my kick drum channels, I wonder if I can move these guys. Nope. All right. Make sure all my kick drum channels are routed to one group, and then I solo that group. And what I get from there, oopsie, is this. What do you know? It's just the kick drum. Awesome. So what you want to do there is select your whole MIDI track and then right click and hit commit. Make sure everything's default, insert after last selected track. Do nothing. You don't want to get rid of your source track. We're just isolating the kick, which I've done down here. I'll show you again though. What that gives us is a fanciful stereo track, which we do not want. We want to split that into mono, and then we're going to delete the stereo original and then one of the sides, and then select that, go to your mix window, and make sure that it's centered. Okay, great. So I've actually already done that, and I have it labeled kick, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this bad boy and continue working with what I've already got. So rename it kick, and then what you're going to do is choose a send. You're going to send it, just choose any send that you have free. I chose 25. Pre-fader, and then bring your level up to unity. And then select your favorite compressor that has a side chain on it. I am liking this one because it's got all sorts of fun stuff. It's got a sidechain detector high pass. It's got sidechain gain. I can turn the sidechain on and off. It's got saturation. It's got attack and release that are very flexible. They're very malleable. It's got the overall compression, which is probably the threshold. Character, which is kind of different little humps you can add to it. And as well as a wet-dry mix knob, which I actually love. So I'm doing a little bit of parallel processing in that way as well. So just select the corresponding bus send, so bus 25. And then what I've got going on is actually a pretty long attack time and a very, very short release, as short as it'll go. Also, I forgot to mention, since this is pre-fader, that is what you want. Make sure you then mute this extra kick channel because you don't want both of them playing. And of course, you can come back to Superior Drummer and clear your solo. And then what that gives you is, if I just solo the bass, a nice, subtle little sidechain compression from a silent kick drum. However, it is the exact same kick drum that is playing through Superior Drummer, but it's not the one playing on MIDI isn't actually touching the bass. You've just got this silent one But for all intents and purposes, they are exactly the same. They are literally exactly the same. It's just a routing thing. It's kind of a workaround. What you could do is, well, I mean, it's basically what I've done is print all your tracks and then simply send your kick over to your bass like normal. But I really like working inside of Superior Drummer, and so I don't tend to print my tracks to audio. I tend to just leave them alone. Um, I was experimenting with seeing if I could simply, solo my kick group, send it to its own thing, make sure that's soloed, and then perhaps come to the bass and select that output, but it's still not available, unfortunately. So that's why I have this workaround. Let me go undo that real quick. And it works just wonderfully. So back to my compressor, I'll show you a little more of the settings that I'm using, and we'll tweak them a little bit. And I'll show you why I didn't choose a fast attack time, because for some reason I get nasty, nasty little artifacts that sound like this. That sounds like you're stepping in a puddle of poop, and you don't want to do that in life. You just don't. So nice. And then if I mess with the release, and I think one of the most interesting controls on this is the detector high pass filter on the side chain, because you can of course turn it off, and then you're going to be compressing the frequencies, think like 40, 60, 80 on the bass, or you can move it up to 100 and leave the subs pretty much untouched, or you can even move it up to 300, and that's actually a really interesting setting, because it pretty much leaves the low end alone and just kind of compresses the top end of the bass, or at least the top end of the bass frequencies, if you know what I mean. Sorry, my phone's going off. Interesting stuff. So you can still feel and hear the pumping, but it's not pumping the low end. It's very interesting. You're also changing which frequencies of the kick that are going to kind of come through and get the bass out of the way. And so if you want the lower frequencies to get to pop through on the bass, if you've got something a little thumpier like I do, then that might be something you want to do where you maybe want it to come through at 100. Or if you've got something a little more attacky, which this certainly is that as well. It's not in the metal realm of things, but it's got plenty of attack. You can still get away with high passing the side chain relatively high, getting some side chain compression on that bass, and yet you're preserving the real low bass frequencies and they're not really moving out at all. So that's kind of interesting. And that's something that I'm going to play around with a little bit more as I continue mixing this song and finish it up. And the other big one to definitely dial in properly is the wet dry knob, because there's not really any portion of this. There's not any part of me that wants to compress all the bass all the time. But it's interesting how the wet and dry and the detector high pass kind of work in different ways to accomplish something similar, because if you don't want the entire bass to get squeezed and pushed out of the way, then of course you can dial in some of that dry, and that'll let the bass, that'll give you an even bass signal, and then you'll get the compressed kind of heartbeat layered in with each other. And if you want to accomplish a similar thing but in a different way, then you can simply leave the low end of the bass alone, more or less, and only compress these low mids, and you get a similar effect but in a very different way. So that's going to be fun to dial in and experiment with. So I hope that this sidechain trick has been useful to you. I hope learning about it has been useful to you. I hope you get some good use out of using it. If you're a Superior Drummer user, or if you use another type of sampled drums, it may apply as well. And I hope to see you in the next video for more fun-tacular audio tips. So I'll see you guys later. Thanks.